Hey guys, it's Athena. Welcome back to my channel. First, I just wanted to give or say that I am so grateful and so thankful for all of the really positive and wonderful comments that I got in my last video. It was the first video that I had put out, the title being like transgender and that word, and so I knew that it was definitely going to draw in like a different audience than I had before, and it's the most seen video on my channel, which I think is a good thing. I also think since it's a hot topic type of thing, that's kind of why. And really, when I first uploaded the video, I got a couple weird comments, and then the person I think deleted them, and then there were like 2 dislikes and 3 likes, and I was like really worried that the dislikes were just going to keep growing, and that it would be like just turn into a negative kind of thing, but it actually didn't, and it turned into a really positive thing, and we're at like 57 likes and 2 dislikes. Hey Stella, thank you. So oh my gosh, we're like getting bit up by bugs so bad out here. I could like, my legs look like I have like 100 bites on them. It's terrible. But anyways, so we're at like 57 likes for that video, and people saying like thank you for making this, and people just being really, really kind, and that means everything to me. I think that as much as I want to be completely open and out there and honest, it's also really hard because you feel so vulnerable as a person. Like, you really do feel like you're naked and you're on like the war, a battlefield, and you're like, how am I gonna survive and thrive? And that was something that I kind of, wanted to talk about a little bit with this video specifically, is that, I never really know where to go with these videos, or like what specifically to talk about. Like, I was maybe going to talk about my reassignment surgery experience. I've had my reassignment surgery. There was a video I recommend you guys checking out. It was called An Important Part of Who I Am. And then I did the title, and it also talks about, I put transgender in the title, but that was the very first video I talked about being transgender and everything, and having to wait to talk about that for my channel for like legal reasons. And now that I'm finally able to be like open about it is a really wonderful thing. Do you think I can use some, Stella? Thank you. I got it. Thank you. Some skin so soft. We're like, yeah, the mosquitoes are no joke here. I don't know if you can see like all over my arm and stuff. My legs are like, it looks like I have like chicken pox or something. It's terrible. It's so bad. So anyways, yeah, I don't know exactly where to go with these types of videos and what exactly to talk about, but I do just want to sort of explain, like, my biggest thing is that I want people in the world, if my dream is for people to be a little bit more understanding, and for, the transgender topic to not be so sensationalized, and for everything to maybe take a little bit more of like a realistic, like humble, level approach to things, and not have like really controversial titles, or really like sensationalized titles for clickbait, or things like that. I don't feel like that helps. I think it helps generate an audience, but I don't think it generates a really positive kind of audience and opinions and stuff. And like, I really would love if people could empathize and see that this is a real human being with, a valid story and emotions and an experience and all of that, so on and so forth. And, to be completely honest, it feels pretty damning to be a transgender person. It feels like I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Like, if there was anyone in the world, I would never want to curse them with being transgender. It's awful. It doesn't feel good. It's really not a choice. I don't think anybody would choose to be discriminated against, to have to go through a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain involved, emotional pain, the the heaviness and the how it goes against our society or what people believe about, you know, we're born the way we are and that's how we're supposed to stay, or that that's the only way you can be. And it's, I don't think anyone purposefully chooses this life as a transgender person. It's just something that you're born with. And it's really interesting because a lot of the time people think of it as a choice, like it's a lifestyle choice. And I don't think that it's really a choice. I think that you feel it inside of yourself and you know that that's your truth. And you have to do something in order to survive. And you're like, you know what? If this happened to me, I'm either going to embark on a transition and make it right, or I'm not going to do that and sort of live, a closeted life of something that is just maybe in private, or I'm not going to address it because it's just too hard, or I don't want to lose my family over it. I don't want to lose my livelihood or anything. And like, it can be such a taboo and damning experience. Like, people are so persecuted for this type of thing, and there's so much discrimination, and there's so much just ignorance about it. Like, there's so much out there that is misinformation, or that, like, it's really hard. Like, there are people that I love that, tell me that, I'm gonna go to hell, and that, it's I'm not a valid woman in God's eyes, and and things like that. Or, it's there's something wrong with you, like a mental issue. And I just, that kind of stuff is really, really hard to be exposed to that and to hear those types of things. But there's also on the other side, there's also all the wonderful support of people saying, like, you're absolutely a woman, are 1,000% a valid woman, and God loves you no matter what, if you're a religious person or not. And something it's just it's really, I don't know, it's so interesting that we live in a world where I just feel like we're so divisive, and we're so, like, we categorize people, and we want to, like, shun people. And it's crazy because there's no right way to be a human being, and there's no right way to live your life. No one's perfect. No one matches the perfect or stereotypical ideology. I mean, there are people that have a lot of things about them that maybe are what is in the Bible or that type of thing, but that doesn't mean that they're a perfect person, or that they're more valid or whatever. I think that everybody is a valid person, and I just really wish that there was more of that in the world, and there was less of this, like, hatred kind of stuff, and the just really, really bad things that happen to people, like the killings and the slandering, and just really, like, awful things. I mean, think to yourself, what if that was you? And that's something I don't understand. Like, there are people who are so hurt by racism, but then they'll be completely transphobic, and they'll say, oh, well, that's not okay. But if you don't like someone who is discriminating you, why is it okay to discriminate against someone else? Like, there are people say, well, the Bible says this, so it's my God doesn't accept that, so I don't accept that. But we really have to ask ourselves, if you are a, God-loving, fearing person, God loves every one of his creations. If you're a religious person, I am not. So, but if I was religious, I would know that there would not be a God that would damn people for living their truth, and for being their truth, and not hurting other people, and embracing who they are. I don't, it's just so interesting that, like, there's just so much hatred, and the dogma, and the repression, and all of that, like, it's crazy to me for people to, like, be just so. And, like, we see it with not just trans related things, but we see it with racism, we see it with sexism, we see it with politics, we see it with just everything in our world. Like, it's crazy. where is the empathy? Where is the what if it was me? You know, I mean, I could delve into a whole lot of things, but I care about things that don't affect me as a person. Do the immigration things affect me that are going on in the world? Am I an immigrant? No. I mean, technically, you know, you're all of us are immigrants at one point, but I'm a US citizen. I still care about all the people that are trying to come to America. I still think that they should be US citizens. I think that everyone, if you want to be an American, you should be able to be an American. And the process of becoming a legal citizen needs to be changed and needs to be way easier and not as like discriminatory and difficult. And you know, I'm not, that doesn't personally affect me in my everyday life, but I still care about it because it has to do with the integrity and the well-being of other people. And you know, just or whatever it is, you know, like, I mean, I just I think it's important that even if we're not affected by something, to still be open and to be supportive and you know, learn about it and do what we can while we can with what we have, you know. And you know, I just it's hard. Like, I think people also think that I live in like an idealized world, and that I think that, you know, I like my arguments come out of like a fantasy world, like, and people say, well, life just isn't like that. But you know, I just always question and wonder, you know, if we all asked each other, if I was that person, if this was me, if we put ourselves in that person's shoes, how would we respond? How would we react? You know, what if this was your sister? What if this was your mother, or you know, anything like it? It's just really, it's just so interesting in a negative way of how the world, you know. And then there's good things as well. It's not just all bad, and I think that the good things are wonderful, and I think it's great that we're getting a lot more exposure in this day and age about this topic. And you know, it's something that we hear, and now it's in conversations, and it's not something that is like, you know, not talked about. Of course, you know, depending where you are, it may not be being talked about, or it might be hushed, or you know, things like that. But it's definitely working its way out there, and we're working towards a better future. But that being said, you know, I go to the doctor's office and I have doctors be like, I have no idea about this. This is a new phenomenon to them. Being transgender is a new thing, a new frontier, when it's really not. There have been, you know, two-spirit people. There have been transgender people all throughout history. You know, for a really, really, really long time, undocumented things. I am sure that if something exists now, it existed in the past as well. We see this with all different kinds of things. And, you know, in other cultures and stuff, there's the two spirit people, people who embody the feminine and the masculine, and they're seen as like, on a higher level, you know what I mean? So this isn't something new. This isn't a new frontier. It's just new that it's being talked about, and it's that it's a part of the conversation now, and that there's coverage about it now. And you know, like, it's really crazy because, like I was saying, I've had my reassignment surgery, and I'll go for a gynecologist checkup, and I had a doctor be like, you know, you don't have a cervix, so I don't need to look at your vagina. You don't need a pap smear. And I'm like, well, really, I don't necessarily I can't have the cervix scraping thing, but I still need the vaginal cavity, like, looked at. Like, it was like she was afraid to look at it, or afraid to, like, look at me. And it felt, you know, and I didn't want her to be afraid. I guess she had had a bad experience where she had maybe, she had offended someone by asking, you know, a personal question. And I just told her, I was like, you know, it's not, I think that transgender people are so hurt, and we're so raw and open, and we do get triggered easily sometimes. Like, if you're at the doctor's office and the doctor's like, do you have a cervix? Like, it does hurt, but we have to be able, I used to be hurt when they asked me if I had a period or not. It used to offend me. I felt hurt. I felt disrespected because I wanted to have a period, and I didn't want to have to talk about not having one, or that I was trans or whatever. But now I understand where they're coming from. It is from a medical question. Like, they're just trying to figure out how they can help you best. So I've become a lot more relaxed and open with those types of things, and so I wasn't offended saying, no, I don't have a cervix. But I've also had other doctors that are like, yes, let's do, it's important that you have the vaginal examination. It's important that we learn about this surgery and that we have training and how to help you if you're in pain or whatever. And I've had a really great primary care doctor that said, there are specialists that I know of, and I'm going to reach out to them, and we're going to work together. And you pay so much for health insurance. It's really sad when the doctor is like, I don't know what to say to you, I don't know what to do with you, and they give you misinformation, and they say things that they don't know what they're talking about. And that's very true. I'm more knowledgeable than the primary care doctor that I had for my health insurance when it came to this. Like, she would say things that I know you absolutely, like, she would say, if dilating hurts, don't dilate after your surgery. You have to dilate every day, 3 times a day when you first have your surgery, and you have to dilate for like a really, like, years and years, unless you're having sex regularly, to keep the vaginal cavity open, because otherwise it will close and you'll lose your depth and width and stuff. And like, I just think it's dangerous to like tell people like, oh well, don't do it if it hurts or whatever. Like, you kind of have to do it anyways, and that's a whole other thing, and that's a part of the reassignment surgery type of thing. But there's just a lot of stuff, and it's really hard. But I think my message is, I think that we need to have better training on these types of things. I think for my fellow trans people out there, if we can try and look with an open heart and an open mind that these people aren't trying to offend us, they're not out to get us, they're not trying to persecute us, they don't want to hurt your feelings. And if we can make the doctors feel safe and comfortable and like, relaxed and not afraid to be like, say the wrong thing, or if they do say the wrong thing, just say, hey, for the next person, this might not be the way you want to word it. Maybe you should word it this way. Or, just be open to that and not, it hurts. It's a painful, painful thing, and it does hurt. But if we can try and have a little bit of empathy for the other side while they're learning, while they're trying to understand, they're going to have more empathy for us. And then I think because that one experience I had with a doctor who said, like, I don't know what to do with you, this is all really new to me, I was really understanding, and I didn't berate her, and I didn't give her a hard time, and I was like, I understand, and I hope going forward that my experience helps you have a better understanding of transgender people, and etc. So I think it takes two to tango, but we definitely need a better training system in our healthcare. We need, it shouldn't just be a specialist kind of thing. I mean, some things can be specialists, but like, we should know certain basic things about all walks of life, or about surgeries that people have, etc. I don't know. But, and I guess to get into the whole like reassignment surgery stuff, I felt like if I didn't have my reassignment surgery, I wasn't going to be able to live anymore. That it really was life and death for me, and that as soon as I turned 18, I got to have my reassignment surgery. Thankfully, with my family's help, my grandfather's help, monetarily, it is not an easy price to cover, and I don't come from a well-off family at all. And so it's a really unfortunate feeling. It seemingly feels like climbing Mount Everest to even get the surgery, and to fill out all the paperwork and figure out all the healthcare stuff and get all of that done. And luckily I had have a very supportive mother who helped me with the entire process, and made a lot of phone calls for me on my behalf, and a lot of things. And so when I was 18, I went to San Francisco and I had my reassignment surgery, and it was it's a life-changing thing. It solved a lot of things, but then it also created new problems, and not necessarily, I haven't had any medical complications with it. It's been successful, like, completely, but you know, there's new things, and you take on a whole new life experience with new issues and new things that you have to worry about or do, and responsibilities, and all that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to like keeping your vagina healthy and everything. It's a really high maintenance kind of thing, and it's really fucking hard. It really is. It is nothing easy. I would compare it. I mean, it's just such a gnarly, and I don't want to scare people by saying that, but like, you have to understand that to be, I mean, I don't know, to be able to go through something like that and to have to suffer with like the maintenance and the dilating and the learning like how to pee again, and like it's just such a visceral experience. And I'm not saying that it's all pain. It's not. Like, don't be afraid. If you want a reassignment surgery, the surgery, you're not going to feel anything. I didn't feel anything. I was completely out. My anesthesiologist did a great job. I didn't feel anything at all during the surgery. There are sensations, and there is some pain afterwards, like when you're especially when they're taking out the packing. They sort of pack a lot of gauze after the surgery, and they have different sutures, which are the stitching and stuff. And it's a very it's a very invasive surgery, and it is going to take a lot of mental strength. And there were a lot of tears. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of peace in some ways, and a lot of things. And it's its own universe, really. I didn't think it would solve all my problems. I at all. I didn't even think of the things that could be the, like, I didn't even anticipate the struggles of it, because I just didn't know. I didn't know until I had the surgery, like, thinking about things like, oh, well, just because you have a vagina doesn't mean sex is going to be easy. It doesn't mean that you can just have sex whenever you want and just be a free person. Like, you have to deal with like vaginal tightness, and sometimes sex hurts. It doesn't feel very good. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And being more delicate and sensitive, and all of those types of things, or learning how to have an orgasm and stuff like that stuff is really hard. And coming from the male genitalia area, where men can have orgasms very easily. They come so, I wasn't trying to make it sound like that. I just mean, like, achieving an orgasm is so, it's so much easier for men. There really isn't that much involved. And so when you have a vagina, you have to refigure out the body. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's down there. I don't know what this stuff is. Like, I have to, this doesn't feel good. This feels okay. That kind of feels good. Ooh, ow. It's a lot of like, what's this? And, you have to really like figure it out. And it's, it just takes a lot of mental strength. It really does. It takes a lot of brutal mental strength. I didn't figure out how to have an orgasm for like over a year and a half, and then I would only get them in my sleep, and they were really powerful when I did get them in my sleep. I would wake up to it, and I never knew how to recreate that. And those like sleep ones were the most powerful I think I've ever had. And then now I finally figured out sort of what I need to do to achieve an orgasm, but it's not the same pleasuring experience as it was with male genitalia. It doesn't feel like the same. Sorry guys, I have like this stuff on my shirt. Let me pause it. I just fogged up the camera. Okay, sorry about that. So what I was saying is that having male genitalia, the experience of like, sexuality or masturbating and things, like it's a different experience. It's a different, and so when you have a new set of genitalia and you have to get comfortable with a new way of being comfortable and stuff, and it's really funny. And it's very ironic, but I think that men are really lucky to have penises. I think that um, it's I think probably more pleasuring to have a penis than a vagina. I think that men are quite lucky for that. I wish that you know you could have a vagina and a penis, and I know that that sounds really like science fictiony, but I just wish we could have both and then use whatever we wanted. I wish that that's how it was, but it's not. And um, I knew that having my surgery and having a vagina meant more to me than the physical pleasure aspect. I was like, you know what? If I never can have an orgasm again, it's worth the price of feeling a fully connected, complete woman. And it's worth that. And that's a really hard price to pay. That is absolutely. And thankfully, I can have orgasms now, but it's a different, there's a lot of feelings of anger and frustration and jealousy. And, there's a whole burdenhood to having a vagina. And um, it's a totally different experience. Um, so, yeah, I mean, it's this November 30th, will be my 3-year anniversary of my reassignment surgery. I'm now 21, and I had it when I was 18. And, overall, I think that it was absolutely what I needed to live my best life and to feel like, more authentic as a woman and to feel like I can survive being born in the wrong body and stuff. And I think that it's a really fundamental thing. It's something that has to be taken seriously. But, my heart and soul is in the right place and feels, really connected with that and feels like that was definitely the right choice to make. And, it's, there's just so much I could talk about, honestly. It's really hard, like, after the surgery, like I said, to find like people who are supportive and understanding. And like I thought that I would be more accepted because I had a vagina, but if people don't, like, people still reject you just because you're trans. It doesn't matter that you have a vagina. It doesn't matter that you're like all anatomically there. Which I don't think you have to have a vagina to be female. So saying anatomically correct isn't what I mean. I'm just saying like the general consensus of females having a vagina, that type of thing, like that's the general experience for women. So being that, men still will reject you and discriminate against you and be really awful. And I thought it would make life easier, but it doesn't. um, and, I don't think that you even have to have reassignment surgery if you don't want to have it. Um, you know, it's really something, if you feel it in your heart and your soul that that is something that you want, then I say go for it and do it. And yes, it's scary. Yes, you might lose out on some of the pleasures that you're typically, can have or whatever, but it's absolutely worth it. Absolutely. You will feel a sense of normalcy and peace, and like it's not something that's on your mind anymore. It's like it really does, like something gets taken off your plate, and it's a different mental space to be in once you feel connected with that in your body and you feel correct. But that being said, like, just because you're a trans girl doesn't mean, or trans man doesn't mean you have to have reassignment surgery. If you want to enjoy and feel totally fine having a penis, then have a penis and be a girl. And you're a girl. You're a full girl. Who cares? That's my honest to God truth. My honest feeling is that girls, it doesn't matter if you have a vagina or a penis. If you're a girl, then you're a girl, and that's it. Deadline. If if you know you're a boy or you're a girl, then that's it. Conversation over. You know what I mean? So, and I would say don't feel super pressured to have the surgery either. It doesn't mean that you're going to be condemned. There are men out there, heterosexual men, straight men who will accept you and love you even if you don't have your surgery. I absolutely promise they are out there. They are very rare and hard to find, but there are people out there. You don't have to have the reassignment surgery to find love. That being said, just because you have the reassignment surgery doesn't mean you're going to find love. And I've learned that, the hard way. Just because I have a vagina now doesn't mean men are like, oh yeah. A really common phenomenon for trans women is that men, if you're attracted to men, like I would consider myself a heterosexual woman, I'm only attracted to men. I'm open to trans men. I'm open to, girl, like the pansexual thing. Like I think pansexual is what I'd identify with, and that I'm just open. I'm not closing myself in, but, you know, really I've only ever been sexually attracted to men or with men. I've never been with a girl or anything. My brother is dancing in the window. Hey, Cyrus. So, coming for, I'm trying to think what I'm even talking about, that for heterosexual men, that the common experience is that they'll be like, oh, well, I can have sex with you, or I can like play or fool around with you, but you're not going to be my girlfriend, and I'm never going to have a relationship with you. And just please, like the bottom of my heart, never be in those types of relationships or experiences, because I think that is the most disrespectful thing that someone can do. I think that's just so awful. Like, I've literally had guys be like, yeah, like, I can totally hook up with you, but I am not going to be your boyfriend ever. But you're fine to, fool around with. Like, that is just the most demeaning, awful, it's so hurtful. That is so hurtful. Then don't even do anything, don't communicate with me at all. Like that, it just feels really, really offensive when men say and do that, and that's their response to it. And I think that, you know, um, just don't, even if you're dying for like the human touch and you're dying for a physical experience, which I've definitely experienced, and you just want someone to love you and to, kiss you and hold you and, have the things that other people have. Like, I think as a trans person, you really are open to the world of sex being a luxury, something that is like you're lucky if you get to experience sex that you want to experience. And I'm sure disabled people can identify with that as well. Like, for people who have the parts and everything works, like sex is like nothing to them. Like it's whatever, like going for a run. But it's different when you have a different experience, and it's just totally a different thing. So that being said, please don't allow yourself to be with someone who will just use you for your body or just use you for sexual needs. That is not representative of you as a person at all, and you deserve someone that loves you and is proud to say that you're their girlfriend, is proud of you as a woman, stands by you as a woman, sees you as a full, valid woman. Like that's what you deserve. Absolutely, 1,000%. And then another side to everything is sort of like the people who are attracted to trans girls specifically, or, and that's a whole other universe. I don't know how I feel about it. I think if you are loving and supportive and accepting, and you just like trans women, or you like girls that have penises, or you like girls that have had to go through a transition, like if that's attractive or beautiful to you, then I think that's totally fine. Like, hell yeah, thank you. Like, thank you for supporting this. Thank you for being so loving and kind, and thank you for finding me attractive. That means a lot to me. Thank you. But if it's coming from an objectifying, like, like secretive kind of thing, like where it's like I think there's pros and cons to fetishizing trans girls. I think that sometimes it can be a little like discriminatory and a little bit disrespectful. And then other times it feels like liberating and like not a big deal. And it just depends. Like I don't know. it just depends on the girl. Like, it depends, not every girl is going to be comfortable if you're, you know, you know, completely like that's the only type of girl that you like. I think trans girls will sort of raise an eyebrow to that and feel like, what are the real reasons that you like this? Is it because you're attracted to sort of like, the male and female components of things? Is it that you really are just genuinely accepting? Um, you know, I don't think it's wrong to find something sexually attractive, um, but it's also not okay to, objectify and sort of, you know, be like, I don't know how to describe it, like be disrespectful about it, and like, like the whole like, I don't know, it just, I don't think like words like she-male are really appropriate at all, or like, tranny. Like, some girls openly identify with that, and some girls are okay with being called a tranny or she-male or a trans, like, I don't, transvestite. I don't know. Everybody has their own relationship with those words, but for me, I think transgender is the most respectful, or if you can just see us as normal girls, is even more respectful. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a complicated thing. Like, yes, on one hand, you're like, wow, I think that's amazing that someone's like really attracted to me, and thank you. And then the other part is like, but I want it to be coming from a respectful, accepting, loving place, not so much like a secret, like fantasy kind of thing. Not to say that it's wrong to have fantasies about trans girls. I don't think that's wrong either. Um, human sexuality and human nature is very fluid and, crazy and out there, and, all kinds of things. So I don't think people should be persecuted at all for specifically liking trans women. But yeah, this video is all over the place, and I hope you enjoyed the second part of listening to this. And thank you for all of your support. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything, for all the comments, for all the likes, and the wonderful kindness that you guys have shown. I know this stuff is really taboo to talk about, but if I can just come from a normalizing place, from a, it doesn't have to be sensationalized, we can just have real discussions, real open discussions, then let's do it and let's talk about it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys with all my heart. Thank you for the support, and I'll see you guys in my next video.